Welcome to the WorkLife Wellbeing podcast. Digital financial advisor Open Money launched their low-cost employee benefit solution, WorkLife, to help employers put their employees first by enabling them to offer financial advice, tools, and support through the workplace. Not stopping there, WorkLife by Open Money expanded their offering to include a broad range of benefits to support their employees' overall well-being that might usually be out of reach for many businesses. My name's Leah Heath, and I'm your host for this podcast. Over this 6-part series, I am going to be joined by special guests to discuss all areas of well-being. Today, we're discussing the 5 pillars of well-being. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever Work-Life Wellbeing podcast. My name is Leah Heath. I'll be hosting you through this and for hopefully very many future ones. And I am the Wellbeing Advisor at WorkLife by Open Money. So this is the first time I have ever done anything like this. I've not even been a guest on a podcast. Can you believe that? And here I am doing my own one, all my own editing. And let's hope it's good, eh? So I just wanted to do this first podcast to introduce you guys to a concept I call the 5 pillars of well-being. Now, I'm going to use the word well-being and health synonymously. And this is because when I was researching very, very early in my well-being career, I saw a definition by the World Health Organization, which I'd actually previously seen when I was doing my sociology A-level. And the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So to me, that would indicate that health is well-being. So the model that I'm going to talk to you guys about today is something that you will probably have seen on LinkedIn. You might have seen it at a conference. It's everywhere. The pillars of well-being is something that a lot of people are talking about. However, where I'm different and where you should listen to me is that I have 5 distinct categories. Some people have 3, some people have 4, some people have 10. But these ones that I've put together in the way that I have, I believe really illustrate each facet that it takes to contribute to a person's overall well-being. I think that each of these affect one another. And for that reason, you can't neglect any one of them because they absolutely bleed into one another in a sort of domino effect. If you're not taking care of one area of your well-being, it's almost certain that you're not taking care of more than one. So we can't neglect any of these, and we need to make sure that we are taking active steps to engage positivity with each of these areas of well-being. So you might be asking me, cool, Leah, whatever, what are the areas of well-being? Well, I believe they are physical, mental, financial, social, and environmental. So I'm going to start with physical well-being. I'm starting with this because traditionally it has been the one that we have considered to be health. So we're thinking of physical health here, we're thinking of physical fitness, all these type of things that you've traditionally thought of when you think of health. This is what we're talking about. So physical well-being is related to fitness. It's related to making sure you're doing enough physically to contribute positively to your physical well-being, but also that you're not doing too much, because if you do too much, you can cause detriment to it. So I'm going to use my little anecdote of my ankle. So I play rugby. We've just been promoted to the championship, my team. And unfortunately, earlier in the season that has just gone, so essentially the season that didn't happen, I quite badly sprained my ankle. So I had a few options of what I could do there. I could either completely ignore it, get really down about the fact that I couldn't play rugby for a few weeks and sit like a couch potato and do nothing, which, to be fair, I did do a bit of. I could go straight back into rugby, although I know that probably it's not the best thing for me. It will take me much longer to heal if I ever do heal. Or You can do what is positive for your physical well-being and get a happy medium. So do a bit of physio for your ankle, make sure you're doing light exercise. And that's what I mean by not doing too much. In a nutshell, whatever you're doing, it needs to contribute positively to your physical well-being, whatever it is. Keeping your physical health the best it can be, eating well, eating enough, moving enough, all contributes to the physical well-being. It ensures that you have the capability to complete everyday physical tasks. It could be things, really simple things, from getting out of bed to helping your mum plant flowers in her garden or whatever it might be to you. But being able to contribute to your physical well-being by doing things that you would expect yourself to be able to do. As a result, having positive physical well-being means that a person has less illnesses, less diseases, and injuries. And ultimately, what the whole point of this is so that we feel good about it. We feel good about ourselves and our physical well-being. Next, I'm going to chat to you a little bit about mental well-being. So mental well-being is all about your emotions and how you feel. Having positive mental well-being is feeling positive about yourself. It's being able to recognize and express your emotions healthily. So we can already see how these begin to overlap. Having good physical well-being will contribute to your mental well-being. So going back to the old ankle, I felt a bit rubbish, to be honest, because sport is what I do. And unfortunately, I couldn't go to the gym, I couldn't run, I couldn't do anything. And so I had to, at that point, have a really good think about what I was doing with my physical well-being in order to help my mental well-being. So what could I do in this situation? Well, I could go swimming, I could do a bit of physio, I could go down to training even if I wasn't actually training and see my friends. So how can you make it the best? And also certain things like if you're going for a walk at lunchtime, maybe you're not necessarily going for the physical exercise. Yes, you're getting it, but maybe you're going because you need a bit of a break from your desk. You need to not be looking at spreadsheets or pie charts or whatever it is we're looking at that day. Maybe it is the mental break that you need. So that is linked to physical well-being, but it contributes to your positive mental well-being as well. So I also mentioned it's being able to recognize and express your emotions healthily. I actually read the other day that in a 2018 survey, the most common cause of stress for adults, with 59% feeling it. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but 59% is quite a big number in the grand scheme of things. Adults said that work-related stress was their most common cause of stress. So if you're feeling stressed at work and you're able to recognize that, and maybe you've got too much on your plate, maybe you just need to chat to your line manager and say, look, I'm really struggling here. I feel a bit overwhelmed. Or you go to your HR people if there's something that you need to talk to them about, or even just taking a couple of days off. Being able to recognize and stop it from getting to complete overload is a really, really powerful thing. And even if you feel like you are at your wit's end, if you're having, a really, really difficult time mentally and you book an appointment with your doctor, you are still mitigating your emotions. You're expressing those emotions healthily and you're doing something positive to your own mental well-being. So these things are really, really important in contributing positively to mental well-being. Now, a lot of workplaces are getting absolutely on this hype, and they really, really should, because it's a fact that people who feel better mentally perform better at work. And why wouldn't you want to be on a team with happy people and people who have really thought about their mental well-being? Because chances are they care about yours as well. Creating a culture where mental well-being is at the forefront is really powerful, and it helps break the stigma of talking about mental health issues. So we actually work with Thrive, who are an NHS approved mental wellbeing app. And you can get CBT on there. So basically a CBT simulation. So I have actually had CBT myself, and I went through the app, and it is so, so useful. When you have CBT and you go to a practitioner, you're given well, they call it homework, but it's basically you have to think about how you feel, put it down on paper, and it does that, but on your phone and in bite-sized pieces. So it's actually really good, not just for if you feel you need it, but just for maintenance. And like I say, as someone who has had CBT, I can vouch for it that it is incredibly useful having it at your fingertips on Thrive. So if you're listening to this and you're a WorkLife member, get it downloaded. Don't even think about it. If you go to your WorkLife portal, you can go straight there. If you're not a WorkLife member, get onto your HR team. This is so, so important. Give them a little bit of feedback about your mental wellbeing scheme that you've got at the moment and tell them what Thrive can do. So, and that wasn't even an ad. I just came out with that. So yeah, we'll take it on to the next one, which is something that I personally know quite a lot about, if I do say so myself. just realised how big-headed that sounded. Well, I say that because I have worked in financial wellbeing as long as I have worked in employee wellbeing. It's something that, again, is coming to the forefront of a lot of employers' priorities. And again, it absolutely should. I mean, how many times have, some people might not hear, but I know I certainly have been in jobs where I've not necessarily earned enough, or I felt I've not earned enough, and I'm calculating left, right, and centre, how am I going to make it to the end of the month? If you're doing that and you should be working or you should be sleeping, of course that's going to affect your work. It's going to affect your mental well-being. If you're not sleeping, it's going to affect your physical well-being. It knocks onto everything. And that is why it is a key pillar within the well-being structure. Leading back onto stress, in that same survey, 45% of people experience stress caused by money. That's half of us, literally half of us. Not literally half, that's half of us. And it's something I will keep banging on about, is that it doesn't matter what you earn. It doesn't matter what type of person you are. You could be an apprentice at a company, or you could be the CEO of that same company. Your wages are complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Doesn't matter. Both of these people can have the ability and the capacity to worry about money. It doesn't matter what you earn. Financial well-being isn't about your paycheck. It's about your relationship with money and how it makes you feel. Are you good at budgeting? Do you have a safety net of money? All of these things contribute to a person's financial well-being. And having something in the workplace for this, again, is so important. So I work with a few people at WorkLife by Open Money about financial well-being. And one of my favourite ever quotes ever, I think, is from an employer. And he said to me, if I'm big enough and ugly enough to give my employees a salary, I should be good enough to give them financial well-being to go with it. And I just thought, yeah, absolutely fair play. Because there is a bit of a stigma, particularly when it comes to work, when you're thinking, well, why should my employer get involved? This is my private life. These are my finances. And absolutely they are. But what is the point in giving people money if they're not necessarily using it in a sensible way to contribute well to their financial well-being? So I say sensible, and you might be thinking, oh gosh, she's making me go into an ISA, she's making me do all this. I don't mind what you do, as long as it is beneficial to you. And that's what financial well-being is all about. So when it comes to financial well-being, if you're an employer, you can't just think, oh, one thing fits all, we'll just get this involved, it will be absolutely fine. No, it needs to be done on a very individual level. Employees and people will be so different from one person to another. And that is why things such as open banking, understanding what people have, their spending habits, in individual accounts, all that type of stuff is really important. And at Open Money, we actually do that. We can connect all of your accounts on one platform. And we'll give you digitized advice on your spending habits and what we think you could do maybe to maximize your money. If you're beyond that point, and if you think, I've got a good amount of money, I've got a savings buffer, I've got all this sort of stuff behind me, I'm ready to invest, we can then give you advice on top of that. And advice does not need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be for people who are just, earning six-figure salaries. It is for everybody. And that is essentially Open Money's mantra. Financial advice that is affordable and accessible to everyone, regardless of your income or situation. Now, again, not even doing an ad. I really just do think that the two, initiatives that I've just shared with you, Thrive and Open Money, are absolutely fantastic. So if you can go for something like that, or those themselves, it is really important that, you get your employees doing something positive for their mental well-being and positive for their financial well-being, because they do absolutely overlap. So, I got on my soapbox a bit there. Got on my soapbox, but we do soldier on to the next facet, which is social well-being. So, social health contributes to your well-being. It is feeling positive about your interactions with other people and the wider world. Being socially healthy is the ability to communicate, have meaningful relationships, and have a support network. It means overcoming these feelings of loneliness we get. We're human beings, we're social animals. In Psychology Today, I read online, it wasn't even talking about social well-being, it was just talking about the importance of having relationships. And it said, when we pursue meaningful relationships, we have better social well-being. It is the best way for us to build emotional well-being. So we can see how they all interlink. If you're neglecting your social well-being, your emotional well-being probably isn't going to be the best. We need to be able to create these important and strong relationships, and also the ones in passing. So this is something I think we're going to have to think more seriously about when we're going back into the office, because there are people who have unfortunately left the office last year. They've been shielding, and they might just be wanting to come out. They're going to be incredibly anxious. I remember the first time I went out, I went to Warwick Castle actually for a dinner with my friends, and my friend said he was chatting away to the waitress, and he's usually a really quiet guy. And I said to him, I was like, Josh, what are you doing? You're talking. He was like, yeah, I've just forgotten how to act around people. And while that was obviously a really funny exchange, we do need to think about these social anxieties that we're going to have, and particularly in the workplace. You might have gone from sitting next to someone for years and years and then not speaking to them in person for quite a while. So going back into the workplace, we need to be able to foster these great relationships, and even just water cooler chat. And if you're not going back into the office, or you're going to be back in the office less, if we need to think about how we can simulate these things. So how we can simulate water cooler chat is quite intense. How are we going to meet a colleague for lunch like we would usually? And I think this is something that's going to be really important coming out of the pandemic. And whether you're a HR leader or whether you're an employee, we all need to be part of this. It's down to everybody to take some responsibility and make sure we are doing everything we can to help each other feel better about coming out of this COVID rut. Also, something that we actually like to do at Open Money to help with our social well-being is giving back to the local community. We work with two charities. We work with Wood Street Mission and Hideout Youth Zone. And doing something for them and having, we can have a day off work if we like to go and help them. And I know that a lot of other companies do that. It really does make you feel good. We actually raise money for them at least once a month, I'd say. We do once a month with our bingo. And then if there's any other event, they are always at the forefront. It makes you feel good that you're helping create these social connections within the environment that you are in. Speaking of the word environment, that is the last pillar. So this one is, some might say, a bit rogue, but actually I think it is absolutely important to the world we live in right now. So the environmental well-being, is feeling positive about the environment that we live and work in. Achieving positive environmental well-being means we know how to support our environment, build stronger communities, and foster a culture of communication, kindness, and happiness as well. So it does link in to social well-being quite a lot, but they are distinct. And this is because if we think about the environment that we live in, it goes beyond our immediate environment. It goes to a global thing. We are all contributing to the global environment. And many businesses are having different initiatives at the moment. People are bringing in green vehicles, green technology, thinking even about shutting offices to help with that. It is really at the forefront of people's minds. And even not on a Greta Thunberg, David Attenborough, Netflix documentary level, our immediate environment as well. Having the ability to participate in a thriving community means that we feel positive about what's going on around us. So again, this links into the social well-being and how we can involve ourselves in the community or with charity. And how can you do that? Well, you can donate to a charity, you can volunteer at a homeless shelter, you can make a move to using less plastic. There are so many things you can do to contribute positively to your environmental well-being. But something that I think is going to be really interesting coming out of a lockdown is that our surroundings are so important to us. How many of you guys have been at home in an office with no windows or a tiny window? This needs to be thought of as we're going back into the office. And even if you're not in the office, even if you're sat at your desk, think about what would make your situation, your immediate environment, more comfortable. I'll give you something. So I actually read that if you are in a situation where you might not have many windows, or if you have a window and you're looking out into a car park or something that's not very green, inside have plants, have pictures of nature, have a picture of a beach if you like, go crazy. Do anything that you can just to ensure that your brain is getting some stimulation. And it will change from the black and white spreadsheets, pie charts, all that stuff that you see constantly. I was actually talking about this with the head of people at our organisation. We were discussing how breakout rooms, they're not really breakout rooms if you're going from an office into a room that is exactly like an office. You need to have a different sort of stimulation because that's the whole point of it. Otherwise, you just sit at your desk all day. So if you're working at home, make sure you do have these different stimulations, or even go outside for a bit a day. You know, make sure you take your lunch, or do what they say, a virtual commute. Go out, do a lap around the block and come back. And that, again, contributes positively to your immediate environmental well-being. So, mental, physical, financial, social, and environmental, they all affect each other. We need to recognise each of them to reach an overall state of positive well-being. I introduced those today because from now on, the podcasts will be themed around them, and we will look into each aspect in a much deeper manner. We'll be having guests from our partners and from friends of WorkLife, friends of my own, and it will be really great to carry on with this to help you guys learn a bit more about well-being, whatever position you are in a company, whether you are just wanting to learn about it a little bit more on not even a work level. There will be something for everybody within this. As you can see, each pillar bleeds into one another. They are not distinct. And that is why I think the inclusion of all 5 of them is really important to understand a person's complete well-being. But something that I think is really important to mention is that I don't see this as set in stone, as much as the word pillars would connote that it is in fact set in stone. It isn't. We're human beings. We're constantly changing. The world around us is changing. If you think about the last section that I was talking about, environmental well-being, there is not a chance that would have been on the radar 50, 60 years ago. It's important now because people are interested in it. It's something that makes people feel better. And I think that it is really important that we understand that these pillars might change. Our needs and interests might change. So while I believe this is a great starting point, I am more than happy to hear people's views on this. I am on LinkedIn if you'd like to give me a message. And also, if you'd like to just let me know what you thought of the podcast, I will be very, very happy with it being my first one. But for now, I've got to go and edit this and try and make it sound as good as possible. Take out all the cringy bits. Thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you guys soon. Thank you very much for listening to the WorkLife Wellbeing podcast. Join me next week, where I chat with co-editor of Malby Money, Edmund Greaves, where we will discuss financial education, the importance of its accessibility, and how it can positively contribute to our financial well-being. See you then.